Alrighty, so I just realized something that I didn't know a couple of days ago. Remember I said the Jamaica versus USA game was going to be on the Fox network? That was actually not true. It was actually going to be on the ESPN network, and not only the fact that it was on the ESPN network, but it was also going to be on ESPN Plus. So, despite the fact that I haven't watched the US versus Jamaica game because, I was working when the game is happening, I'm going to be watching the replay of that game right after when I finish doing this preview of the four games that's going to be happening this weekend in MLS, and then I will, of course, will be doing the review of the US versus Jamaica game after, again, watching the replay of that one. But let us actually begin talking about these four games, and we start off with the first one being the Red Bulls versus Inter Miami. So this, of course, was a game that's supposed to happen back in, I believe, July or June. But it's one of those time when this game was supposed to take place there, but because of the fact that there was a lightning storm around the day of this game, and they really kind of never got a chance to play this game and decided to postpone to a later date. This is basically the date that they have postponed it. And coming into this game, it is going to be starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 6:08 p.m. local time. And this is kind of a crucial match for both of these teams too, because I really feel like both of these teams are kind of like just looking at the outside in terms of contending for these Eastern Conference spot, and in some way, one team is trying to get into that conversation in the playoffs, and one team is kind of slipping out of that conversation. The Red Bulls, of course, are unbeaten in the last 5 games and are definitely that team that is slipping into the conversation, whereas for Miami, they're definitely slipping out of that conversation after losing 4 in a row, and their record is now at 9-5-13. The key points coming into this game for both teams is that can the Red Bulls continue this hot streak to get themselves even closer in the playoff race? I mean, the Red Bulls right now, when you look at how many points they are below the red line, I believe it's either 4 or 6 points that they're below the red line, but that is probably the closest that they have got in these last couple of months, and really something that is kind of remarkable considering the fact that I think a couple of months ago when the Red Bulls looked like they were out of it and they was just dropping way too many points at home and on that really bad run, I thought the Red Bulls were done, and I thought that streak of them making the playoffs in 11 years is going to finally come to an end this season, but it seems like the Red Bulls are basically saying, wait, well, let's not just call it a season yet, and let's not actually just basically give their fans any lost faith that the streak is going to come to an end, because all of a sudden they're starting to making a good run. And it's kind of interesting that this hot streak that they've been gone on kind of all started when they play against Inter Miami the last time when both of these teams face off a couple of weeks ago, because I think coming into that game, both of the it was kind of almost the opposite, where Miami was the one that was in red hot form and the Red Bulls were the one that was kind of still in the mix of that bad run. But this game, as I said, the table has really turned, because Miami is now the one that is looking to try and break out of their current form, which kind of looks very similar to the early season form, where this is a team that not only cannot find a way to put the ball into the back of the net, but they also struggle to defend too. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if they can fix that. And not to mention, when you look at the last couple of games that Inter Miami has played on the road, it has not been good enough. And if they want to get themselves back into the Eastern Conference playoff picture, this is a must-win for them. But in some way, it's a must-win for both of these teams if they want to get themselves back if they want to get themselves into the Eastern Conference playoff picture, because like I said, both of these teams are kind of slipping away in terms of potentially one of those teams that is in that bubble to fight for those crucial playoff spot in the East. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be FC Cincinnati versus the Philadelphia Union. So for Cincinnati, they are currently occupying the wooden spoon spot and have a record of 4-8-15, while for the Union, they've been unbeaten in the last 4 games to improve their record to 11-9-7, and Cincinnati has a record of 4-8-15. This game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 8:08 p.m. local time. Key points coming into this game for Cincinnati: will there be a new GM boost for this Cincinnati team. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure Chris Albright hasn't really completely took control of the Cincinnati team and really took control of that GM role yet, because, you know, even though they have just announced he's a new GM, I don't think he is. He's just kind of getting his familiarity in terms of how the team, of course, work out, and maybe are kind of giving a bit of a tour of Cincinnati. I mean, you know how when you basically hire someone new, and you always have to give a tour to that new person of all the thing that you need to do in your workplace. I think that's what Cincinnati is doing with Chris Albright right now. But I'm just saying the fact that, you know, there's the reason why I want to say can they get a new GM boost is because of the fact that it's kind of almost similar to the coach's boost, where, you know, when an interim head coach step in for the first time, maybe the team, of course, would play better. But with the new GM boost, it's kind of like what we saw earlier this season with the Quakes when Jesse Forinelli was fired, and then Chris Leach basically took the GM role temporarily, and it seems like the Quakes kind of got that GM boost with the players started to play harder because they know that they want to keep their spot if they think they don't want the new GM to potentially maybe find some guys in the market to try and replace them. And likewise, this is the same case for these Cincinnati players. They're definitely going to be playing for their jobs. I mean, even though it is kind of see you next season mode for this team, knowing how much changes that this team is probably going to go through this offseason, a lot of these players are definitely playing for their jobs and hope to potentially be there heading into next season. Whereas for the Union, you know, can they continue this good run that all started from exiting against Club America a couple of weeks ago? And again, you know, it's kind of weird the fact that the Union is going on a great run after they exit from CCL. I mean, in past years, teams usually when they exit CCL, it's kind of very demoralizing, and they just kind of punt the rest of the season looking to regroup into next year. But that's just not been the case for this Union team. Like, they are literally trying to change to become a team that can retain the spots that they're currently in the East, which is third place in the Eastern Conference, and let's see whether or not if they can do so. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Seattle versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. So it's the forgotten Cascadia derby, because, you know, I feel like at any time when Seattle play against Vancouver, or maybe when the Portland Timbers play against Vancouver, you know, it's always kind of like the forgotten Cascadia derby, because everybody keep focusing on the main Cascadia derby, which is Sounders versus Timbers. But in this game, this one will kick off at 6:08 p.m. local time, and will start at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The Sounders, of course, have won 4 out of their last 5 games, and their record is 16-6-5, and have been able to take back first place in the West. Well, for the Vancouver Whitecaps, they have been a team that is hard to beat in the last 15 games. And actually, I don't know why I wrote the last 15 minutes. I meant the last 15 games with the way that the Whitecaps have only lost once doing that stretch, and have really got themselves in a very good position of the fact that even though they're still below the red line right now, they're definitely in a good position to basically overtake a couple of teams above them, and that they are the first team, of course, out of the playoffs if the playoffs start today. Now, the key points coming into this game for the Sounders, obviously they're going to be a little bit short-handed, because they do have a couple of guys that's going to be missing on international duty. One of those key players is Raul Ruidiaz, and the other one is Christian Rodin. You know, how would both of these guys, that means a lot to the Sounders attack, how is the absence is going to affect them? And for the Whitecaps, you know, can they cause more problems to this short-handed Sounders team heading into this game? You know, the last time when the Whitecaps played against the Sounders at Lumen's Field, they really took on the Sounders and really played them well. I mean, they at one point had a 2-0 lead against the Sounders, and let's not forget that they were actually the first team to be able to score against the Sounders in open play. So yeah, they're definitely fancy their chance that they can do that again, and especially with the way that they've been playing so much better in these last couple of games. Yeah, this could be a very interesting kind of matchup, and, you know, for the Sounders, they got to be careful not to take the Whitecaps lightly. I mean, I think after what happened last time, they're definitely not taking the Whitecaps lightly. They're definitely going to be taking them as a serious opponent, and especially an opponent that have not been on the losing category a lot in these last couple of months. But now moving on into the last game on this board is Minnesota versus the Colorado Rapids. So this is the only Sunday game that is going to be happening on Sunday, as this game will start at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 3:08 p.m. local time. For the Loons, they have a record of 10-8-9 after they drew 0-0 against FC Dallas away. For the Rapids, they lost 3-0 to Seattle away in a game that was kind of a defining game for the Rapids, because, you know, they want to show the rest of the league that, yeah, you know, the Rapids, they're a team that shouldn't be taken lightly, and that even though they're kind of is a little bit underrated, and there are still people kind of question their legitimacy of potentially be an MLS Cup contender. Well, unfortunately, it seems like those people are still going to have the right to do so, because in that crucial game against the Sounders, they lost 3-0 in that one. Although I will say this, you know, when you watch that game, it definitely did not look like the Rapids just got rolled over by the Seattle Sounders. Like, they had chances in that game against the Sounders, and they just could not put away those chances. And, you know, how many times I've said before, when you don't put away your chances against a more superior team, you are going to get punished, and the Rapids were punished multiple times in that game. And not to mention, the Rapids also make some really silly mistake at the back, and also their backup goalkeeper Clint Irvin definitely had some bad moments during that game against the Sounders, which I'm pretty sure William Yarbrough should be back in net for this one. Now, the key points coming into this game for Minnesota is that, can a shorthanded Loons team get a crucial 3 points at home? Now, the answer to that question has been mostly no for the majority of the season. I mean, this team, I just feel like this team just does not have a lot of depth at all, and when they do not have some of their best player, this team does struggle to perform. And knowing coming into this game where they're definitely going to not have Robin Lod and also Metanier, and potentially they might not have Michael Boxall, depending on if he's going to be going to New Zealand with the national team. And then, of course, there's the question of whether Reynoso would be available in this game. I haven't heard anything from Disco whether or not if they have rescinded Reynoso red card from the last game. I mean, the Loons did appeal to that, but the fact that, you know, if we don't hear an answer of that red card being rescinded, most likely Disco decide not to do so, and that Reynoso would be indeed out for this game because of him picking up that red card against Dallas. Now, for Colorado, their key points coming into this game is how will they respond after losing for the first time in 12 games. And, you know, when you finally lost for the first time in such a long stretch, it can be very difficult to bounce back, because, you know, you always have that feeling coming out of the game on the winning side, or at least coming out with a point. But how do you deal with it when you finally lose your first game in a long time, and especially after that painful loss that they have against the Sounders? This is going to be a good test for this Rapids team, although they'll definitely fancy the fact that, you know, they are going to be playing against a Loons team that, again, I don't think this team really threaten a lot of people. And I know some people say that this team it should be on paper better than last year's team, which when you look at the starting 11, and if they are at their strongest starting 11, there's no doubt that this team is much stronger than last season. But in terms of to get to the playoffs, what are they going to do? Are they just going to be a one and done kind of team? Because the way I'm seeing them play right now, it looked like this team could be potentially a one and done team, and especially if they do not get a home game at Allianz Field, which it seems like that is most likely the case, because, again, you know, they're so far behind fourth place right now. I am a little bit concerned about this team going forward, and that, you know, I just feel like making the playoffs is kind of a bare minimum for this team. But I feel like if they do lose in the first round, there's going to be some disappointment, consider the fact that this is supposed to be a team coming into this season that was supposed to be an MLS Cup contender, and after what happened last year, did we maybe see the Loons peak last year, and that this might be a start, a bit of a downfall. Well, actually, I don't want to say that. We'll see whether or not. First of all, let's just hope that they can, of course, get all 3 points, even if they are going to be shorthanded, because, again, there are a team behind them that are starting to catch them in in the playoffs. And as I mentioned, one of those teams is the Vancouver Whitecaps, who have a game in hand over Minnesota. And even though that gap is still 4 points, and Vancouver still cannot catch the Loons, even if the Whitecaps win that game in hand, you know, that lead could potentially go down to just 1 point, and there's just really no margin for error for this team to draw more points, especially at home. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of all 4 of these games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 4 of these games? And as always, make sure you guys leave a comment, your prediction for all 4 of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.